not every day that you get to experience the next generation of consoles, but it's finally here. This is the Xbox Series X, and it's honestly a really remarkable piece of hardware, and it goes without saying, by far the most powerful console I've ever tried. So I've had the Series X with me for about a week, and truth be told, the first thing that drew my attention was definitely the design. It's really minimal, and unlike any of the other designs preceding it, it's like a solid monolithic block that's pretty unassuming and gives that really weighty feel. I did not really think much about the design when it was first unveiled, but now that I have my hands on it, I'm actually really liking it. It looks great when just placed beside my monitors on my desk and looks plenty fine when placed right by my TV. Of course, the only caveat is that it isn't really quote-unquote console size any longer. This is pretty tall even when placed on its side and will probably not fit within most TV console cabinets. You'll have to place it on the top for the most part. But design aside, I think what you're really here for is for the performance uplift, the next-gen gaming experience, and truth be told, this really delivers. With Series X, you can expect up to full 4K resolution gaming at 120 frames per second. That in itself, just on paper, is already quite impressive, especially when you compare to the previous generation One X, where most games require the use of upscaling to achieve 4K and runs at a maximum of 60 frames per second, or even just 30. This is thanks to the new architecture that powers the Series X. A custom AMD chip that features 8 Zen 2 cores clock up to 3.8 GHz and a RDNA 2 GPU with 52 compute units clocking in at 1.825 GHz, providing about 12 teraflops of GPU power. Of course, that is all just jargon to most of you out there, and we aren't going to dive too deep either, for this is a console and not a custom upgradable PC with interchangeable parts. But in short, it provides a pretty great gaming experience. The Series X features a UI that's really similar to the One X, so if you're familiar with that, you'll be right at home with these. As you move to your game library, you'll also be able to easily see which games have been optimized for the next-gen consoles, for it will show the X and S logo right on the game icon itself. First up, Gears 5. Now Gears 5 is one of the games that still uses a dynamic resolution to achieve 4K 60. But the main difference is that it now sticks much closer to the 4K ceiling and an almost locked 60 frames per second, compared to the One X, which has noticeable dips at times, especially during intense firefights. What's more amazing, however, is the multiplayer experience, where the frame rate is essentially doubled. Playing at 120 frames per second on a console really feels much more next-gen than 4K, in my opinion. Next, we tried out a simpler game like Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Like Ori, you get to choose to play the game at either super sampled 6K at 60 frames per second or 4K at 120 frames per second. Super sampled 6K was something I did not expect, and on Series X, it is really amazing when played on a 4K TV or monitor. The high resolution just really complements the art direction and design of Ori, and it really just amazes you at first sight. Even if you swap to 4K, it still looks amazing, but now it feels even better because your frame rate is doubled, and frame rate is really essential for a platformer. The higher, the better. It just feels really great to play. Of course, it goes without saying that one of the most important upgrades for pretty much any game on the Series X has to be the reduced loading times, thanks to that new custom SSD. Gone are the days where you can grab a drink while you wait for your game to load. But in my opinion, arguably more important than that and more useful has to be the Quick Resume feature. With Quick Resume, you can basically swap between any games that you have launched within 15 seconds or so, and it picks up right where you left off. This works even if you have put the system to sleep or outright shut it down. As long as you didn't quit the application or plug out the power cable on your Series X, you can get back up and gaming in less than half a minute. This is one area where console gaming has PC gaming beat, hands down. But now you might be wondering, does the Series X run hot or perhaps loud? This might surprise you, but it's really silent. Even when playing games under full load, it's basically silent from where I'm sitting, and it's less than a meter away from me on my desk. Now, I lucked out with my PS4 Pro. My unit is really quiet while gaming under full load as well, but the Series X takes it a step further. My only advice is to place the system down on a flat surface and to not block the ventilation holes around the back where the ports are, because this is actually where the majority of the air is being pulled from and not the bottom of the console, which is pretty much covered by the round base. But that's not to say that the Series X is perfect, far from it. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the new controller. To keep it simple, it's 95% the same as the previous controller. The main difference would be the slightly rougher matte texture throughout, which extends to the bumpers and triggers as well. The bumpers and triggers are also ever so slightly smaller than the previous, and you of course get a USB-C port now instead of micro B. The other main difference would be the D-pad, which is more akin to the Elite controller and the inclusion of a share button. It's still powered by two AA batteries, which has its pros and cons, but you can also fit the Xbox lithium-ion rechargeable battery should you want to. It is a standard size after all. It's basically a more refined version of the previous controller, and that's fine by me. But now on to my gripes with the Series X, and I think I have 3. The first is storage. Currently, there's only a 1TB model, with the average next-gen game coming in at around 80GB or so. That means you can only have about 10 games installed and you'll be running low on space. You can get the expansion card, which adds another terabyte, but in general, you'll want to delete old games once you have finished playing them, and make that a habit. The second is Wi-Fi 6, or the lack thereof. This, I feel, was an oversight by Microsoft. With Wi-Fi 6 being readily available nowadays on laptops, smartphones and the like, it feels like a step back. Even more so when Microsoft themselves are trying to push for digital, and when their competitor, the PS5, does support Wi-Fi 6. It doesn't make a difference for gaming online, of course. Where it really matters and plays a huge part is when you're downloading a game, and it is a major difference. The last is not exactly about the Series X itself, but rather the implementation of HDMI 2.1. In order to enjoy 4K gaming at 120 frames per second, you need to have HDMI 2.1 input on the display of your choice, and there just isn't much out there at the moment. There are a few select high-end TVs like those from LG, but as far as monitors go, while there are 4K 120 displays, most of them use DisplayPort 1.4 to achieve it, as that's ideal for the PC side of things, and not HDMI 2.1. So if you're thinking of picking up a Series X now, just know that it will take some time for the market to saturate with displays that support HDMI 2.1. All in all though, I think the Xbox Series X is a really phenomenal piece of hardware, especially when you consider its size, the amount of power they can get out of it while being pretty much silent throughout, and more importantly, when you consider its price. People used to say that you can build a gaming PC for about the same price as the console and get similar if not better performance. With Series X, I think you'll be hard pressed to do the same, and especially more so if you take in cool features like Quick Resume. In all honesty, I think the Series X makes a ton of sense if you're someone who wants to get into next-gen gaming but can't necessarily afford a good gaming PC. For just 699 Singapore dollars or 499 US dollars, it is extremely worth it in my opinion. Throw in Game Pass Ultimate and you instantly get access to hundreds of games and you can play online. Once you have saved up enough for a gaming PC, well, Game Pass Ultimate will cover you on the games as well. Personally, I think that the Xbox Series X is in a kind of unique position right now, and it makes quite a lot of sense. It is the next-gen console through and through, and it will provide you a great gaming experience. Next-generation consoles are finally here. If you have any questions, drop us a comment down below. And if you would like to support us, do check out the affiliate links in the description as well. If there is one, I'm not too sure if there is one at the moment, but if you do, thanks for the support. Don't forget to subscribe to us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Till the next one. See ya!